So our next speaker is Professor Williamson Chang, who is a professor of law at UH Manoa's Richardson School of Law. He specializes in water rights, Native Hawaiian rights, and the legal history of Hawaii and conflict of laws. Professor Chang also participated in the Na'i Aupuni ʻAha this past February. Please welcome Professor Williamson Chang.
Aloha. I'm going to start by liberating you, if you're not already liberated. What I'm going to do is I've brought an article that I passed out while I was at the ʻAha. I'm going to put half of them here and half of them there. And those of you who want them, please just take one. Why? Because I'll give you the site online where you can get it, and don't worry about it. It's always there. So, we have, no, go ahead. I didn't know we had helpers. Thank you. Aloha. You read this, 40 pages. You are free. You are free because those 40 pages are indisputable truths. In other words, they're facts, they're legal evidence that no one can deny, the United States cannot deny. And the last time I did this, passed this out, was at the ʻAha. And I took one and I put to every person's table and put it on their, put it at the table, because I wanted them to see that there was just no other path than independence. At this moment, I want to say, I want to recognize a few people. How many people were participants in the ʻAha? Raise your hands. Please stand. It is something. You stand. Oh. Okay. I'd like to recognize them because it was like being in a bear fight or in a washer dryer for 20 days. The other person I want to recognize today is Kilihina Kekumano, who's right here. Would you please stand? She is a stalwart patriot, a person of living goodness, and I just want to thank her. I think I would not be who I am but for the work she does and the work she has done to help me. And I heard she almost got arrested today, and I'd like to talk to her because 20 years ago, I got into trouble myself, and Judge Susan Oki fined me for $70,000 for saying exactly what you're reading in this document. That's how things have changed. 20 years ago, you could not do this without the system repressing you. Okay, so I'm going to base my talk around, there's a lot of things I want to say, but I think I'll base it around my participation in the ʻAha because that's controversial and it wasn't publicized, and I know you don't know much about it because the press didn't cover it very well at all. They said, oh, it was great. Oh, well, what are you talking about? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. And it answers all three questions. How does Hawaiian history inform the path to Hawaiian independence? That was question number one for the Constitutional Convention, the ʻAha. What do you envision as the path? That was one of the paths. Was it good? Was it bad? What are your next steps for possible governance and model? That's what we had to deal with. Now, let me tell you how I actually got in there because it's quite dicey and controversial to say you ran for a delegate position in the ʻAha. Why? Because most of the Native Hawaiians boycotted. And they boycotted for the right reason. because it was rigged. It was rigged. It was a train on rails. It was a train wreck, but it was a train on rails. And I went through agonizing moments thinking, I should go, I shouldn't go, I shouldn't go. And it was Walter Riddy and I who went to a meeting of very esteemed Native Hawaiians in the community. And they went around, it was a big circle, and I go, oh, this is nice. And then they went around. Each one explained why we should not run as delegates. And Walter said, hey, that's smart, that's true, that's right, I'm out. And I said, oh, I don't know yet. So I went home and thought about it, and I said, hey, I spent my life, the last 30 years, digging up information as to why we're independent. I gotta go. That's like the war over. That's the battle. Okay, I gotta go. I'm sorry. You know, they said, okay, if we all stand together, it's gonna mean nothing. I said, that's not true. Only their voice is gonna be heard. And so the ʻAha began with this. 200 people running for 40 places. And then the Supreme Court of the United States says, invalid. And they cancel the election. And they let all 200 become delegates. That's like, hey, all you guys on there, come on in. All 200. When you had 40 people, and you got now 200. You know what that is? That is another example of the United States denial, egregious, unlawful denial of the right of self-determination of the Hawaiian people by declaring our election a race-based violation, when the problem with race is their problem, not ours. They bring their laws over and they say it applies to us. They don't even think about it. They just say, hey, Kamehameha School's racist already. What you talking about? So what the whole ʻAha was one big push for a recognized federal tribe. We're going to be a tribe. And I said, I'm going to do everything possible within me. I'm going to spend every ounce of my energy, every breath to stop that. It's not going to happen on my watch. I had just taught a class called Nation Building. I don't know, who did I invite as guest speakers to Nation Building? Dr. Keanu Sai, who caused a huge controversy at the law school because students were running into their teachers saying, he says there's war crimes. Yeah, that didn't end. Then I went out and I challenged the Attorney General, Eric Holder, to come to Hawaii and investigate the war crimes that were being printed on the front page of the Advertiser. Come on, you're supposed to investigate crimes. You know what he did? 3 months later, I got a letter from the Justice Department. You know what it said? Dear friend, dear friend. So it was a controversial decision, but I had to do it. It was my life. Why was it my life? You might ask, Williamson Chang, what kind of name is that? Pake name. Okay, it's a Pake name. But I'm part Hawaiian, Chinese, Scottish, Irish, like everyone here. We're all Hawaiians, we're all heroes. And I'll tell you how it happened. One day, I used to represent the state of Hawaii and Chief Justice Richardson in fighting for the people's water rights. And we won in the US Supreme Court. And what I discovered is the sugar industry cheated all these years. They went and changed the King's Law. They said you could own water. He said, nobody owns water. It's all for taro. They said, we need it for sugar. I went and studied. They changed the books. So I said to myself, if they can change the books on water, maybe they're going to fool around with other parts of law. So I said, what's the next part they're going to fool around with? Annexation. I went and read the Congressional Record on Annexation. It blew my mind. I cried. The words I read are in this article. The words I read were senators saying, what are you guys, nuts? You think a joint resolution, a single piece of paper written by us can take another country equal to us in sovereignty, co-equal, independent? It's like me writing a paper saying to somebody, one of the women in this class, we married now. I don't care what you say, we married. I get all your property. You think that works? They did, that's what the joint resolution was. You read my article and you'll see 2 reasons why I had to go. The first reason was 2 years after the joint resolution was written, the United States in the Organic Act admits it never acquired Hawaii. Section 2 says the only islands in the territory of Hawaii are the islands acquired by a joint resolution. But a joint resolution can't acquire anything. So there's nothing in the territory. It's an empty place. It's only guys running around in the Kingdom of Hawaii pretending they're a government. That's number one thing you got to know, is that it's the law of the United States. It's like OJ confessing. He never confessed. He just tried to wear the glove. No, it's like OJ confessing, like, I kill her already. Number 2, 1959. You do not know this. 1959, the plebiscite in 1959, June 27th, when you voted. Well, some of you were too young to vote, but maybe your ancestors or your parents voted on statehood to pass the Act of Admission. The Act of Admission, Article 15, Section 1 is the same thing. They just spent a year designing it so that it was so complex and so mixed up that you couldn't figure out what it said. What it really says is the same thing that it said in the Organic Act. The only islands in Hawaii are those acquired by the joint resolution. There's nothing here that belongs to the United States. Right now, you're not in the United States. You've never been in the United States. The United States has never been here. It's an illusion. It's a deception. What do you call that? That's a crime. It's by coercion. They put you in jail when they don't have the power or the sovereignty or the jurisdiction to put you in jail. And we know our heroes and patriots have been bringing these cases in court. Of course they're going to lose. You think a judge is going to say, you right? I don't get no job. It is complex. They made it so complex, they made it so entangled that we stuck in their system. Why? I work for the state. What I'm going to do, say like, I give them my job, yeah. No, we get ERS, we get Social Security. They make us suck into their system so that it's hard to get out. The whole thing is how to get out. It's not about being independent. We are independent. The problem is, the future is, if you had immediate independence now, who gonna run the fire department? Who gonna run the police department? Who gonna run the PUC? Who gonna run rail? I don't care who run rail. I don't like rail, but they're gonna force it on us. If we took over Hawaii right now, who would run the DOE? These are the questions the ʻAha had to face. So it's complicated. It was complicated. But I was there to stop one thing, which was federal recognition of Native Hawaiians as a tribe. And so I passed this out. Everybody read it. The first week was just expert speakers. Experts who, on one side, federal recognition. The woman from Aotearoa, New Zealand, she get me so pissed off. Because she said, the only rights Hawaiians have is as indigenous people under the Declaration of Indigenous Rights. I said, what you talking about? I went up there, I started screaming. People, usually I'm a calm guy. I usually am. You ask anybody, I'm calm. Ask Kili, I'm a nice, calm guy. I went up to a woman professor from Ottawa. I was so mad because she was making it, she was telling everybody on live stream, Olelo, the only race Hawaiian had were as indigenous people, which is only a declaration. The whole week was one, propaganda. And the Saturday before the ʻAha began, the Smithsonian had invited me to give a lecture at the Smithsonian to the people in Washington as to why the United States didn't have jurisdiction. Can you imagine that? I started my speech by saying, this is a very big moment. Because the last time a Hawaiian was here to speak about annexation was Liliu Kalani. She was sitting in the gallery when they debated the joint resolution. And she had to listen to them fight. And Americans fought for her and lost. And I said, today, I'm going to tell you the truth. So the first time in how many, 120 years, in Washington, D.C., on the Saturday before the ʻAha begins, I was able to give a speech in the capital of the United States. And I said to the Bill-Meheula of Na'i Aupuni, if I'm good enough for the United States to bring to Washington to present the independence position, don't you think I'm an expert enough to speak in the first week? He said, no. He said, you can speak anytime, otherwise, well, I'm not going to let you speak. I never get to speak. They give me 15 minutes. They had to, we had an independence group. They had to struggle for 15 minutes. I speak for 15 minutes. That one guy, one Hawaiian from Saigon, he kept saying, what about Texas? Texas was annexed by joint resolution. And he kept interrupting me. Okay, no, never mind. He is Bronson. But no, that's not the point. He called me one idiot. He called me delusional. He called me one washed up professor. And he called me one liar. But he still was there. It was a war. It was a war. I said, Bronson, you and I talked. We went in a room. I convinced him. He still called me delusional. It was rigged. It was so rigged. But the thing was, somebody had, we're living in a rigged system. It's no different. Every day it's the ʻAha over and over. But we're getting our word out. That was the point. So we formed a little independence caucus, and it grew into the International Committee. And we put out on the last day, when they put out their constitution, we put out the Manawili Declaration, #1. And it was simply facts. And it ended with this. The Hawaiian Kingdom continues to exist. And all you're doing when you pass this constitution is proposing amendments to the last constitution of the Kingdom of Hawaii. You're not doing anything more. You're proposing amendments. And I didn't know my constitutions. So Keone Choi told me, the last constitution, it's the 1887 constitution. And I said, how can? He said, that's the one Liliu Kalani swore an oath to enforce. Now, she wanted to change it. That's why she got overthrown. So we're going to change it. So it was an experience. Like, I taught that class in nation building. I had like 10 students. We had a zoo making the Constitution. I voted no. 33 of us voted no. All my students vote yes. They never talked to me. People, well, what's going on here? You guys never learned nothing. I was so pissed off. Z, you know those guys, kind of guys. Z and I, we had it out. So the one thing I learned from the ʻAha was, we're all one people. When you get Hawaiians together and they're not on Facebook yelling at each other, when they look each other in the eye, when they put their nose to the nose, they gotta get something happens, magical. They become one. In other words, what was going on was my students saw a different light. They saw, you know why? They're young. They're the millennials. They no more get job. They no more future. They no more get housing. They no more get Social Security. Nothing can come down. They're going to have to live. The kids are going to leave. What they call the Unity Coalition, what they believed in was, we're going to do it the Hawaiian way. I don't care what this ʻAha is about. They refused to use English words of law. Everything was Hawaiian. I went into a meeting of the Judiciary Committee. One of my closest friends, Makana Parrish, he said, okay, we're going to declare that the jurisdiction of Hawaii extends to the whole universe. And I said, what? You were getting in trouble with a lot of countries because, you know, you kind of like, you're encroaching on them. He said, well, what's wrong with that? I said, do you really mean that? And we talked for a while, and he really said at the end, and Z was there, and he said, oh, we really mean kuleana. I said, oh, I can live with that. If you mean we have a kuleana over the universe. So what was happening was they were challenging every concept of law that the Westerners have forced on us, from nationhood to private property to all this. They were way out there. So the Unity Coalition, they produced a constitution where nobody won and nobody lost. Everybody won and nobody lost. In fact, in the preamble, it says we have the right to pursue independence. I tell you, that fight, Lilikala cried. You know who Jade Danner is? She was just rolling in tears in the aisle. But the thing was this. They were saying, okay, I give in. You know why? Because when they face Hawaiian to Hawaiian, face to face, you cannot fake it. You cannot ignore someone's feeling. You cannot ignore that feeling of being Hawaiian. That was the point. So it was a brilliant thing. Nobody won, nobody lost. We would say, like the United States, screw you. You like us make a constitution. We're gonna make one that you can understand. That nobody can understand. You got pursuit of independence. You got a country that can have external relations with other countries. You think that's a tribe? You think any tribe can do that? They got the DOI so pissed off. The DOI, what you guys doing? I thought we had this rigged. So 80 guys voted for, 30 guys voted against, but the 80 guys who really voted for were partly for independence. You see what I'm saying? The independence guys were for independence only. Then the other 80 were saying, nah, can have compromise. We go, how can you compromise? They go, Hawaiians can compromise. They're right. You get two Hawaiians together, they're fighting, they can compromise over anything. Hawaiians can do, what they were looking for was a new Hawaiian way. Because the most important thing about the future, the path to the future, is the better quality of life for our people. We live in a pretty wealthy country, the country of Hawaii. We get all kinds of things. You get mortgages, mortgage-backed securities. You get fancy things. You get rail. You get traffic jams. It's not a bunch of goat herds. You're living in a complex country, and the government that you're going to need is going to have to be very sophisticated. So the path to independence and possible governance is going to require, as Willie said, 20 years of study, 10 years of study, a policy institute. We cannot just go right now. We're going to run out and do what? That was the point of the ʻAha. The point of the ʻAha was, here's the United States trying to force us to be a tribe. Even the guys who wanted to be a tribe had to give in. They had to say, okay, I agree, independence is okay. And DOI this was all DOI's thing. This was all the federal government. This is what's been going on forever. We being driven by the federal government. All they wanted to do was protect the entitlement programs, the health program, the education. That's not a bad idea. But don't call us tribe. So us independence guys, we were staunch and we produced Manuili 1, which says, here's the truth. The United States has no jurisdiction over Hawaii. Hawaii is a foreign country to the United States. Therefore, creating a tribe out of Native Hawaiians is the same thing as the United States going into Great Britain and making a tribe out of Anglo-Saxons. You think they can do that? That's exact. And so I was charged with writing Manuili 2, which is Manuili 1, only 3 pages. Good for the eyes. I'm writing Manuili 2, which is indisputable evidence. Nothing iffy. All facts that proves everything in Manuili 1. And you're going to get this. I guarantee you're going to get this. You don't even need to come up. Because this is going out to the world, every embassy in the world, every state, every governor, every school is going to get this. In fact, this is the history that Willie is talking about, that Dr. Keanu Sai is teaching. It is indisputable. Anything that's even iffy, not in here. Not in here. We don't talk about the future. We just say, the United States, this is not part of the United States. It's up to us to figure out the path. The path, as Willie says, is going to require study. Because we are a very, very complicated country. We're not simple. We got to think about our pensions. We have to think about housing. We have to think about the whole point of our independence, our choices, is a better quality of life. And that's what my students saw. They're young. They're looking at this world. They can't get jobs. They graduate, they're going to go what? Uber drivers. That's the best they can do. And what they're saying is, hey, I don't care what it looks like. It's got to be ours, and it's got to produce a place where Hawaiians can come back to and our children can live. If it doesn't do that, what's the point? So I sat down with Z and other people I was pissed off with. We did the big hug, and we had dinner, and you know how Hawaiians, they kind of make up, huh? They call, we only really nasty in Facebook. I gotta tell you that. That's the truth. We're really nasty in Facebook. But you get two Hawaiians who fighting together, and they sit down with someone else. They have some food, they talk, they find out there's a common ground that no one can even imagine. No one in the Western world can imagine. It's a new path. Hawaiians were put on this earth with a destiny, and that destiny is to create a new kind of government, a new kind of politics, a new world, an absolutely new world. And Willie is working on it. And she's working on it, everybody. And Kilihina's working on it. We're learning from our history. You know why? Our queen, our late queen said, you got to have patience. And she said, we're not going to fight with the U.S. That's stupid. That's Western ways. So it is taking a long time, but it's the Hawaiian way. And the Hawaiian way is really difficult to define in Western terms. It is Hawaiian concepts. It's Hawaiian words that everybody talk olelo in the ʻAha. Me, I not can follow. I'm sorry, but they're talking about values that have disappeared that need to be brought back. It's the values of the Hawaiian people, our kupuna, who carry them now, that are transmitted to us, that will guide us. Because that's what I saw in the ʻAha. It was a war, but the war became different when you began to look each other in the eye. I'm not saying it was a fun experience. It wasn't. I'm saying it was a learning experience for me. I learned so much. It's not about just what's written, laws like that. It's about person to person. You know that. So don't forget, you are Hawaiian, and that means more than just paper. So I bid you aloha, and thank you for sharing your time with me.